the Spirit of God came on Azariah, son of Oded. He went out to meet Asa and said to him, "Listen to me, Asa and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you when you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you." For a long time, Israel was without the true God, without a priest to teach, and without the law. But in their distress, they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, and he was found by them. In those days, it was not safe to travel about, for all the inhabitants of the lands were in great turmoil. One nation was being crushed by another, and one city by another, because God was troubling them with every kind of distress. But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded. When Asa heard these words and the prophecy of Azariah, son of Oded the prophet, he took courage. He removed the detestable idols from the whole land of Judah and Benjamin and from the towns he had captured in the hills of Ephraim. He repaired the altar of the Lord that was in front of the portico of the Lord's temple. Then he assembled all Judah and Benjamin and the people from Ephraim, Manasseh and Simeon who had settled among them. For large numbers had come over to him from Israel when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. They assembled at Jerusalem. They sacrificed to the Lord 700 head of cattle and 7,000 sheep and goats from the plunder they had brought back. They entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and soul. All who would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, were to be put to death, whether small or great, man or woman. They took an oath to the Lord with loud acclamation, with shouting and with trumpets and horns. All Judah rejoiced about the oath because they had sworn it wholeheartedly. They sought God eagerly, and he was found by them. So the Lord gave them rest on every side. King Asa also deposed his grandmother, Maacah, from her position as queen mother because she had made a repulsive image for the worship of Asherah. Asa cut it down, broke it up, and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Although he did not remove the high places from Israel, Asa's heart was fully committed to the Lord all his life. He brought into the temple of God the silver and gold and the articles that he and his father had dedicated. There was no more war until the 35th year of Asa's reign.
Good, one more chapter. Stay awake.
In the 36th year of Asa's reign, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and fortified Ramah to prevent anyone from leaving or entering the territory of Asa, king of Judah. Asa then took the silver and gold out of the treasuries of the Lord's temple and of his own palace and sent it to Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus. "Let there be a treaty between me and you," he said, "as there were between my father and your father. See, I am sending you silver and gold. Now break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, so he will withdraw from me." Ben-Hadad agreed with King Asa and sent the commanders of his forces against the towns of Israel. They conquered Ijon, Dan, Abel-Maim, and all the store cities of Naphtali. When Baasha heard this, he stopped building Ramah and abandoned his work. Then King Asa brought all the men of Judah, and they carried away from Ramah the stones and the timber Baasha had been using. With them he built up Geba and Mizpah. At that time, Hanani, the seer, came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, "Because you relied on the king of Aram and not on the Lord your God, the army of king of Aram has escaped from your hand. Were not the Cushites and the Libyans a mighty army with great numbers of chariots and horsemen? Yet you relied on the Lord. He delivered them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him, who have done you have done a foolish thing, and from now on you will be at war. Asa was angry with the seer because of this. He was so enraged that he put him in prison. At the same time, Asa brutally oppressed some of the people. The events of Asa's reign, from beginning to end, are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa was afflicted with a disease in his feet. Though his disease was severe, even in his illness, he did not seek help from the Lord, but only from the physicians. Then in the 41st year of his reign, Asa died and rested with his ancestors. They buried him in the tomb that he had cut out for himself in the city of David. They laid him on a bier covered with spices and various blended perfumes, and they made a huge fire in his honour.
Thank you, Wayne. Well done, everybody. Probably not many pastors will read 3 chapters in one night, so I'm either dumb or I'm taking a chance tonight. Hey, we're talking about ordinary people, extraordinary God, and we really needed to get through those 3 chapters by understanding a man called Asa. Now, here's the question for tonight, and there will be questions later on that you can ask of the passage or anything. And so here we go. The question is this: do you think it's better to start off well and finish badly, or start badly, finish well? That's the question you've got to ask yourself tonight. Which one's better? Or should you start well and just finish well? I see you can all nodding, so that's probably the best one, hey? Well, not everybody starts well and finishes well, and not everybody finishes well, starts bad, and vice versa, etc. And Asa was one of those. He started off well, but he didn't end up well. But he did some good things along the way, and we're going to try and learn from some of his things tonight as we read this together. But before I do that, I want to tell you, when I was young, which was a couple of years back, I was at school, and when I was at school, our teacher used to bring in these tests. And of course, you can imagine I love tests. No. But this one was the first one that really intrigued me, because the teacher had a massive big slab of chocolate, and it was the one with white on the top and the brown on the bottom. Top Deck. Love Top Deck. Anyway, big slab. She handed out all the papers and she said, "Go." And we all go. So I brought a slide of the test. Hopefully those boys upstairs can help me out with the slide of my PowerPoint. Here's the test I did. You might have done it in your life. It's called Can You Follow Instructions? Have you ever done this test? So what happens is you start at the beginning, and if you don't read it properly, you will see 24 loudly call out, "I'm nearly finished, I have followed directions." And read all statements carefully before you do anything. Put your name in the upper right-hand corner of this paper. Circle the word name. Anyway, I start going. Daniel and Charlotte, welcome. Look, people who just got engaged are allowed to come late, all right? Welcome. And congratulations. This church is entertaining. Anyway, you go through this whole thing and you realize that it really ended a long time ago if you read the instructions properly. And here I was doing all this stuff, and this girl shouts out, the teacher's pet, "Finished!" And she wins that big chocolate. And it's because I didn't read the whole thing properly. And have you done it? Who's done this one before? Yeah? Good. All right. So it's a lesson in how to follow instructions. And I guess with Asa, he's going to give us some tests tonight on how we should follow instructions, and we'll check out how he followed instructions. But before I do that, I really need to get this up. All right, so tonight all I want to do is go through 6 tests that Ray Pritchard in his commentary says are important for us to understand from this passage. And if you can help us up there, Alex, if we can go to the verses, we'll start at chapter 14. The first is this, and let me see if you can remember all 6. I'm not going to put them on the screen for you because we're going to look at the verses. Just go to the verses for us, the scriptures. Start at chapter 14. So just go to chapter 14, verses 1 to 7. Yes, and I'll mention the verses as we go along. So the first test is this, and the test will be at the end to see if you can remember all 6. All right, here we go. The first one is this, the holiness test. Are you holy, Asa? This is what it says. Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. He did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. Great. What does he get? A plus? Absolutely. A plus. That's what you want. Now, for all those that don't know, you might be asking me the question, who was Asa? Well, if you remember the kings, there was David, there was Saul, David, then Solomon. And then after that, after Solomon's kingdom, Israel, the 12 tribes, they split. 10 tribes went upstairs called the northern tribes, and downstairs was the southern tribes, Israel and Judah, so top and bottom. So you got these 2 tribes up there, okay? And each one of them had kings. In Israel, they had 20 kings in their lifetime, and not one king was a good king. Not one out of 20 kings. But down in Judah, they had some good kings. And Asa was one of them. So the holiness test, will he pass it? Well, Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord. What did he do? Verse 3, it says this, he removed foreign altars and high places, smashed sacred stones, and cut down Asherah poles. So shortly after he became king, he got convicted, and he started taking down all the altars and high places and smashed the Asherah poles. He did this. This was wonderful. He commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, and obey the laws of his commands. So not only did he get rid of all the bad stuff, but he also told everybody, pursue God. So this test, the holiness test, I give him an A+. And you guys? A+. Good. Now the question is, what do I give myself in terms of holiness? Well, then I've got to ask myself the question, do I get rid of everything that is an idol in my life? So am I going and cutting down all the idols of my life? What is an idol? Anything you put before God himself. So that's the question. And then, am I fully and committed and totally committed to God? So that's the first test, the holiness test. The second test is verses 8, please. I call it the control test. There's always another test that we have in our lives is who's really in control. Verse 11, if we can. One of the most beautiful verses in the Bible. What happens is we read that this Ethiopian army, and I loved having the different translations because you can see what some people call, what some translations call them. Ethiopian. In other words, a vast African army. Thousands upon thousands, some of the versions say millions. 1 million men, in fact, it says. 300 chariots, the best war technology of the day, comes up against Asa. What does he do? Asa cries out, Lord, there is none like you. So first of all, he recognizes who God is. Lord, there's none like you. And secondly, he recognizes what God can do. You help the powerless against the mighty. And then he cries for help. Help us, Lord, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this vast army. This prayer is only 49 words, church, but it's packed with incredible amount of power. Imagine you're in a difficult situation in your life and you cry out to the Lord, Lord, there's no one like you. I'm powerless against all these struggles that I'm going through. You know what I am, Lord. Please help me. Help me in this struggle. What beautiful prayer. He affirms God. And of course, what does the Bible tell us about God? Is anything too hard for him? No. Everything is possible for him who believes. The Bible tells us that. And so we have the third test. It's called the commitment test. In chapter 15 we go to. What happens here is in the 15th year of his reign now as king, God used a prophet named Azariah to challenge Asa and the people to a deeper commitment in their relationship with God. So this prophet comes along and said, the Lord is with you when you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. And for a long time, Israel abandoned God, and in their distress, they always turned to God. And so Asa, in verse 8, says, he took courage, he removed the detestable idols, and he repaired the altar of the Lord. Now remember, in chapter 14, he removed the idols, and in chapter 15, he's removing the idols. So what's happening? You see, if you think by removing the idols once that they're going to go away, you're mistaken. Because the truth about it is that we keep making new idols in our lives. We put one down, and then the next one rears its ugly head. And we keep replacing God with other things. Now, when you're our age, you realize just how many idols you've gone through and how many idols you have to break down. But that's what happens. These idols have come again. He's let it slip. And so he destroys them again. But good on him. I give him 10 out of 10 for the commitment test. Asa responds to God's altar call, and they all gathered together and they made sacrifices. They covenanted to God. In other words, they made promises to God, the God of their fathers, with all their heart. They sounded trumpets, horns. They made sacrifices, and they all swore wholeheartedly to the Lord. You can imagine them singing the song, I surrender all. You can imagine it. All of them singing together. That's great. That's what you want. Asa was so serious about this that he even removed his grandmother from her position as queen mother because she had made an idol in her house, which was the Syrian love goddess. So friends, sometimes, even when it comes to family, we have to draw the line. And so, he was serious about God. Verse 17 tells us that Asa's heart was fully committed to the Lord. But then we see some cracks starting to form. It says in verse 17, although he did not remove the high places from Israel. In other words, he had some secret places where these people were doing some idolatry, and he didn't remove it. Fourth test. 4, 5, 6. 3 to go. Here we go. The compromise test. So, in chapter 15 ends with an ominous note. It says there was no more war until the 5th year of Asa's reign. So 35 years on, while the country was enjoying peace for 20 years, things changed in the 36th year. 16 verse 1 says, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and fortified Ramah to prevent anyone from leaving. or entering the territory of Asa, king of Judah. So Baasha, who was upstairs in the northern kingdom, was upset that so many of the people were leaving the northern thing up there, where they worshipped up there at a place called Bethel. The people were coming down to Jerusalem to come to the temple and worship in Jerusalem. So he was unhappy. So what Baasha did was he formed a barricade so that nobody could go to Judah, which prevented any trade happening or anything like this. So Asa panics. He doesn't pray. What he does is he goes to the Syrians and he goes to them for help. He goes to the non-Christians for help. Whereas last time he prayed, Lord, I need your help. This time he doesn't. He actually takes money out of the treasury of the temple. He takes that money and he uses it to pay a pagan king for protection. The army of Aram marched against Joash. It invaded Judah and Jerusalem and killed all the leaders of the people, and they sent all the plunder to their king in Damascus. So what he does? He uses the temple money to do something with ungodly people, and he doesn't pray. How does that help us? Well, first of all, it tells us that he failed. Why did he fail? Well, because sometimes we get too pragmatic about things. Did it work? Yes, it worked. Was it right? No, it wasn't right. But he did it. Next test, number 5. The correction test. Are you remembering them? Oh, most of them started with C, hey? Okay, Asa was given an opportunity to turn things around when God sent a prophet called Hananiah in verse 7. It says, because you relied on the king of Aram and not on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Aram has escaped from your land. If only Asa trusted God, he would have not only defeated Israel that was trying to come against him, but he also would have been victorious over the Syrians. And why didn't he just follow God or talk to God? Verse 8, yet when you relied on the Lord, he delivered them into your hands. Some verses in the Bible just stand out. In verse 9, it says this, for the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. Well, if I were to translate it, it would be something like this, that the Lord is looking down, trying to find somebody, trying to find people who are totally committed to Jesus Christ. That's what this verse is saying. A man named D.L. Moody, who was a wonderful Christian missionary and Bible commentator, he said this. He said, the world is yet to see what God can do with somebody who is fully committed and consecrated to God. I will try my utmost to be that man. This was Moody. The wheels came off for Asa at this point in verse 10. Asa was angry. Look what he does. Asa was angry with the prophet because of this, so enraged that he stuck him in prison. He stuck the man of God in prison. At the same time, Asa brutally oppressed some of the people. It got worse. First, you put the prophet in jail, and then you start treating the people badly. Look at that. All because he couldn't take some correction. Did he pass the correction test? No. He failed. Proverbs verse 15:10 says, everybody, stern discipline awaits those who leave the path. He who hates correction will die. I guess nobody likes being told what to do. But rebellion is a terrible, terrible thing. Now, you might be young, thinking, one day I'll be free from my parents. I can do whatever I want. You'll never be free. Never, ever. You walk out of there, the boss will tell you what to do. You go to a place and rent a place, and they'll tell you what to do. They'll tell you when to cut the grass, how to cut the grass, pick up the rubbish. They'll do that. You will never, ever be free. Sometimes, and probably most of the time, it's much better with your parents. Unless you've got a stern dad like me. My kids say, he's terrible. Proverbs 15 verse 32, he ignores discipline, despises himself, but whoever heeds correction gains understanding. What he's saying to us is that one of the greatest characteristics for any of us is to take correction. Somebody says to you, hey, take it on board. Just accept it. Even if it's wrong, just accept it. Last one. Are you ready? Can you remember any of them? Correction. Elise, you're my pet student, man. Come on, correction. What else? Holiness? Courage. Was there a courage test? Sounds good. Commitment? Control and? Idols, compromise. Well done. All right, number 6, the confession test. Here we go. Verses 11 to 14, God tries to get Asa to confess. So what does he do? He afflicts him with a disease in his feet. So here's this guy. He's rebellious, disobedient. God afflicts him with a disease in his feet. Will he confess? Will he turn to God? No. When King Hezekiah became ill, he prayed earnestly, and God extended his life by 15 years. 2 Kings chapter 20. I have heard your prayers, seen your tears. I will heal you. But Asa? No. He doesn't ask God for forgiveness. It's a sad ending to Asa's life. But there is some good news, because Asa is mentioned in Matthew in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Asa, although he did some things bad, most of his life was pretty much serving God. So here's the test for us. Do you pass the holiness test, the control test, the commitment test, the compromise test, the correction test, and the confession text? And maybe what we need to do is read all the instructions before we do the test. And you and I all know, where do we find all the instructions? In the Bible. So, Asa teaches us a great lesson about an ordinary person. If we read everything we can in the Bible and stick to it, we will pass all these tests. Start well, finish well. And if you've messed up along the way, remember God's grace will cover it all. May you and I learn from the life of Asa. He wasn't 100% holy, but he still honored God and was honored by his people. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for your word tonight about Asa. Help us to learn. Help us not to make the mistakes that he made. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.